Hi, welcome to session 5, and we're dividing wholes, so that's going to be our title. Session 5, dividing wholes. Make sure to put your date and your class number on your paper. And we're going to start with vocabulary. Our first vocabulary is first vocabulary word is inverse operations. And we've talked about this in class before. However, we're going to just write it down so we have it in our pocket of resources. And it really means to undo one another. It's an operation that undoes the other one. So addition's inverse operation is subtraction. Multiplication's inverse operation is division. They undo one another. Next vocabulary word is dividend. And dividend is a value or a number that that's being divided in a division problem. So value being divided by another value. So I'm then going to work with the vocabulary word divisor, and this is the value by which another value is divided. And last but not least, we have the quotient. And I like to call it the solve or the result of a division problem. And when we set up our problems, typically in 5th grade or in 4th grade, you've seen problems that look like this with this symbol. And it says, for example, the dividend is here, and your divisor is over here, and then your quotient goes here on top. So you've probably seen that, and I'm sure you've also seen dividend divided by your divisor equals your quotient. And your quotient can be on the opposite side as well, but you cannot flip-flop your dividend and your divisor. So you can have quotient equals dividend divided by divisor. Sorry about that. Divisor. But in 5th grade, you're going to learn that you can write it a couple of different ways in addition to these ways that you probably already know. And that is, you can put your dividend here. You can put your divisor down here. And it will equal your quotient. Now your quotient can go in either the right or the left as long as you have the equal sign to distinguish them. And then you'll also see it written like this. Dividend divided by your divisor equals your quotient. And you may say, these two kind of look like fractions. And if you said that, congratulations, because you are right. Because fractions are division problems. So when you see a value like 1/2, that value is equal to 1 divided by 2, And when you have 1 divided by 2, it equals 1/2. So fractions are division problems. So now that we got through that, we are going to dive right on into our first method of dividing in 5th grade, which is base 10. It's a good strategy to use. It helps you really understand the concepts of the numbers. So you're going to want to remember that the strategy is called base 10. And when you do the base 10, it's actually quite simple. You start with your dividend. This time we're going to use 264. We're going to divide by our divisor, which is 12. And when you do this, all you need to do is take your dividend, and remember that you're splitting that up, so that you split apart your dividend. And then your divisor that number is going to be your groups, how many groups you have. So if I look at this, I have a dividend of 264. Now this is what I'm going to be drawing out first, and this is going to represent my hundreds place value. So it's my hundreds, and my hundreds, I have 2 here in the hundreds place value. So I'm going to draw out 2 flats, 100, 200. Then I need my tens place, and I'm going to use these rods as my tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And those 6 represent 60, which is 6 sets of tens. And then last but not least, I'm going to use the cubes. I'm going to draw them as little circles, and they're going to represent my ones place value. So here's my 100 flat, my 10 rod, and my ones place value. So now I drew out my dividend, 264, and I'm going to split them into 12 groups. So all I'm going to do is draw out 12 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Try to do everything in sets of 5. That way I can do quick counting if I need to look back. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by eliminating my place values. If I wrote this out normally, I would do 264 divided by 12. And I would say, I have 2 flats. Can I take those 2 flats and split them into 12 groups without fair trading? And the answer would be no, I cannot do that. So I must fair trade. So when I fair trade, I know that each one has 10 sets of tens. So I eliminate those, and I make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 10 here, 10 here, and I traded those 10 in. I fair traded them for my 2 sets of 100. So now I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200, 210, 220, 230, 240, 250, 260. So I take those 260 and I fair traded them. And when I did that, now I'm going to say I have 26 tens. So can I take 26 tens and split them into 12 different groups? Sure I can. Let's see how many times. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good. Now, I have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Can I do it again? Sure, I can do one more set of 10 in each of my 12 groups. So, since I already know I'm going to have 12 groups, I'm going to take out my 10 real quick, 11, 12, and put them down here, 1 in each group, because sometimes I get a little confused if I scratch one out at a time. So now I have 2 10s left over. So that would mean that 26 is divided by 12 2 times here, and I do 12 times 2, that's 24, and I get a difference of 2. See how there's a 2 left over from the 26 tens, take away 24 tens? Just like there's 2 rods left in my distributing out in my base 10 model. So now I know that I have 2 10s left, and I can't take those and put them inside of my groups. So what I'm going to do is fair trade them. So my next place value down would be my ones. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 10 here and 10 here because I fair traded those 2 sets of 10 that were left over. So now that I've done that, I can take those ones and put them into 12 different groups. And essentially, all I'm doing here is bringing down that. So I should have 24 tens. 24 ones. 10, 21, 22, 23, 24. So now, I look at my paper, and I know I probably can take, let's see, I'll do one at each time first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, oops, sorry there, 10, and then I'll do 11, 12. Now, I did it once all the way around, but I think I have enough to do another one. I have 10, 11, 12 left, so that means I could do one more set of 12. 1, 2, and that's 10. That makes 12. So 24 ones was divisible by 12 2 times. So I subtract 12 times 12 times 2 is 24, and I have a difference of 0. So now, if you look, you have 22 as your quotient, and you have 10, 20, 21, 22 in each of your 12 groups. That is how you do base 10. You take your dividend, draw it out in base 10, then draw circles to represent your groups of your divisor, and distribute each of them out until you have none left.